All right, good morning, guys. Here we are, final day of Romeo and Juliet. Got quite a bit of a scene to read here. A lot of characters involved. This would be a very busy scene on the stage of the Globe. So I'm going to try to bring it to you. I'm going to see how many different character sounds I can pull out of my bag here. I don't know. No promises. Some may sound similar, all right? But there's a lot to get to because a lot happens in this scene. The final scene of Romeo and Juliet takes place at the Capulet Monument. You can see on page 864 is where you have the mention of a churchyard. So it's late at night. It's at the Capulet Monument, which was just recently opened for Juliet. And the first character we're going to see is not somebody perhaps we expected to see. We did believe after the last scene from yesterday, having Friar Lawrence talking about having to get there as soon as possible because he knows Juliet's due to wake up from her sleeping potion. But he's also afraid that Romeo might not get the news, so he wants to be there and get, kind of take Juliet back to his cell, and they can work out a secondary option, a secondary plan going forward here. We know that Romeo is feeling desperate and wants to be with Juliet as well. So hopefully he gets there in time to see Friar Lawrence. Let's see how it plays out, shall we? The scene starts with Paris and his page are the first people who arrive at the Capulet Monument. Give me thy torch, boy, hence, and stand aloof, yet put it out, for I would not be seen. Under yon yew trees, lay thee all along, holding thy ear close to the hollow ground, so shall no foot upon the churchyard tread, being loose and firm in digging up of graves. But thou shalt hear it. Whistle then to me, as a signal that thou hearest something approach. Give me these flowers. Do as I bid thee go. I'm almost afraid to stand alone here in the courtyard, yet I will adventure. Sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bed is strewn. Oh, woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, which with sweet water nightly I will do, or wanting that with tears distilled by moans. The obsequies that I for thee will keep nightly shall be to strew thy grave and weep. What? The boy gives warning something doth approach. What cursed foot wanders this way tonight to cross my obsequies and true love's right? What? With a torch? Muffle me night a while. So the scene starts off with Paris, and he's there first, and he's there late at night to pay his respects to Juliet. It just so happens that he wants to kind of say his final goodbyes. He seems to be affected by this. Like, he seems to be really upset that she's gone. And he's saying some things here that shows that he really actually had some sort of feelings for her, whether he's been admiring from afar. We know that they really haven't spent any time together in the play. Juliet has kind of made that clear. They did see each other outside the Friar Lawrence's cell, but obviously that didn't go romantically for Paris. But he has feelings for her. He feels like this was his soon-to-be wife. He's the one who is there to pay his respects. He's also very cautious. He feels like he doesn't want to do this during the daytime. So he's coming at night, sets it up to where his errand boy kind of is going to be the lookout, and he gives him a warning here that somebody else is here. What would they be here for? And it just so happens to be Romeo. Of course it's Romeo who shows up right now. Romeo enters with Balthazar. That's his friend and confidant, somebody else who's known his whereabouts throughout the early part of this play. Give me that mattock and the wrenching iron. Hold, take this letter. Early in the morning, see thou deliver it to my lord and father, and give me the light. Upon thy life I charge thee. Whatever thou hearest or seest, stand all aloof, and do not interrupt me in the course. Why I descend into this bed of death is partly to behold my lady's face. but chiefly to take thence from her dead finger a precious ring, a ring that I must use in dear employment. Therefore, hence, be gone. But if thou, jealous, dost return to pry in what I farther shall intend to do, by heaven I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild, more fierce and more exhonorable far than empty tigers or the roaring sea. I will be gone, sir, and not trouble ye. So shalt thou show me friendship. Take thou that. Live and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow. For all the same, I'll hide me hereabout. His looks I fear, and his intents I doubt. So, again, interesting situation. He has somebody with him who he wants to kind of post as kind of a lookout, but not so much in the same sense. He's actually giving him another errand to do. Take this letter. I'm going to be here for a little while. You better not come around to see what I plan to do, so you should go. And one of the things that Romeo does say is on line 41, take thou that, live and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow. And that's kind of alarming to Balthazar. It's like he's saying goodbye. And what is he saying goodbye for if all he's doing is to go in there and get a ring? Balthazar doesn't like it too much either, so he's going to stick around. So you've got like all these different players kind of hanging out on opposite sides of the stage right now, trying to see exactly what's going on. Both the page, Paris's page, and Balthazar are going to stick around a little while, whereas both Romeo and Paris want to actually go and see Juliet at the same time. That's not great. Thou detestable maw, the womb of death, gorged with the dearest morsel of the earth. Thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food. So, giant metaphor here. He's going to open up the mouth of this monument, this tomb, and put in one more body. He's cramming another body inside this mouth is what he's doing here. He doesn't plan on leaving. This is that banished, haughty Montague that murdered my love's cousin, with which grief is supposed the fair creature died. And here is come to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him, and stop thy unhallowed toil, vile Montague. All right, so real quick here, this little tidbit that we get from Paris does give a lot of information to the audience. He mentions here that they aren't sure why Juliet died, so it's not like they've found out about the potion or anything like that. It is with which grief it is supposed the fair creature died. On line 50, it's mentioning here like they believe that she died of grief. Like that's the only explanation that could happen of her dying. She looked so peaceful. She didn't kill herself. She just died with grief of Tybalt. And when he sees Romeo, he wants to get some vengeance on him. This guy shows back up. He wants to obviously do some more harm to the Capulets. Maybe he wants to desecrate Tybalt's body. Not going to happen. Paris is going to have to jump in on that. Stop thy hallowed toil, vile Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Condemned villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die. I must indeed. And therefore I came hither. Good gentle youth, tempt not a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think upon these gone. Let them affright thee, I beseech thee, youth. Put not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. Oh, begone, by heaven, I love thee better than myself. For I come hither armed against myself. Stay not, begone, live, and hereafter say, a madman's mercy bid thee run away. I do defy thy conjurations, and apprehend thee for a felon here. Wilt thou provoke me? Then have at thee, boy. And he actually starts to fight with Paris right in front of the Capulet monument. They are sword fighting right outside late at night. The page notices. Oh Lord, they fight. I will go call the watch. He leaves, and Paris receives a fatal blow here. All right, so Paris isn't a great sword fighter. Didn't really know that about him. Didn't know much about Paris anyway. But notice that Romeo was a little more savage than he's been earlier times, and all of this is driven by his desire and his love for Juliet. So this whole time, he's been really a loving and romantic guy, but he's capable of murder. He's killed Tybalt, threatens to tear Balthazar limb from limb if he gets in his way, and now he's given Paris a way out, but he doesn't want to take it. Paris isn't going to let him just stick around the Capulet monument. And so he's like, listen, if we got to fight, I'll do it. I'm here to take care of myself, but if you want me to, I'll kill you, man. Whatever. It's all good. Calls him boy a couple of times, too. And it's really kind of talking down to him. It would have been really hard for Paris to walk away, so he doesn't. He fights, and he gets stabbed. Oh, I am slain! It's like a classic Shakespearean, Mercutio, That was pretty good, though, too. But, a plague on both your houses it's a pretty solid send off. But I am slain. It's like you have to let the audience know that you're dying. That's it's Shakespeare. That's how we do it. I am slain. If thou be merciful, open the tomb and lay me with Juliet. And he dies. Stage direction, dies. Yeah. So he's like, hey, if you'll be merciful, just if you don't mind laying me with my future wife. And I was like, yeah, bro, whatever. Yeah, I'll make sure I'll take your request. I'll take that into account and just walk away, step over him. But he doesn't necessarily. In faith, I will. Let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman. Noble county Paris? What said my man when my betossed soul did not attend him as we rode? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so, or did I dream it so? Or am I mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand, one writ with me in sour misfortune's book. I'll bury thee in a triumphant grave. A grave? Oh no, a lanthorn, a slaughtered youth. For here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light. Death, lie thou there, by a dead man's interred. And he actually brings Paris into the tomb and lies him in there with the Capulets, there by Juliet off to the side. Kind of like, well, this is where all the hot young people of Verona are going to be hanging out anyway, so you might as well come along. That's cool. How oft when men are at the point of death have they been merry, which their keepers call a lightning before death. How may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, my wife, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath had no power yet upon thy beauty. Thou art not conquered. Beauty's ensign yet is crimson in thy lips and in thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. Tybalt, liest thou there in thy bloody sheet? Oh, what more favor can I do to thee than with that hand that cut thy youth in twain to sunder his that was thine enemy? Forgive me, cousin. Dear Juliet, why art thou yet so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous, and that the lean, abhorred monster keeps thee here in dark to be his paramour? For fear of that, I still will stay with thee, and never from this pallet of dim night depart again. Here will I remain with worms that are my chambermaids. Oh, here will I set up my everlasting rest and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars from this world-wearied flesh. Eyes, look your last. Arms, take your last embrace. In lips, oh, you the doors of breath seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. Come, bitter conduct, come, unsavory guide. Thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks, thy seasick weary bark. Here's to my love. Oh, true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss, I die. So, one of the things that Romeo notices here in his final moments on the stage is that he notices how beautiful Juliet is. How she just looks so lovely and alive. And we're sitting here, right? We sit there in the audience and we're like, just wait 5 minutes, bro. Just wait. There's a reason she looks so alive. On line 103, why art thou yet so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous and that the lean, abhorred monster keeps thee in dark to be his paramour? It's like death has decided to keep her just as she was in life because of how beautiful she is. That's the only explanation he can think of. Well, there is another one. She's not dead, bro. Wait. Just wait, Romeo. And so I want you to imagine, if you're watching this on stage, even if you've known all along from the prologue that this does not have a happy ending, that unfortunately they cannot be together forever, you're pulling for them. You're pulling for him to rally here and just maybe she can show another sign. Maybe her fingers would move. Something would give some sort of indication to him. And it doesn't happen in time. Unfortunately, he drinks the poison, and that true apothecary, those drugs were quick. And he dies right away, just as the apothecary promised. Oh, enter in Friar Lawrence. Friar Lawrence is going to make an appearance here. He has a crowbar. He has a spade. He's like, I've got to get her out of here as soon as possible. But he's just a little behind. St. Francis be my speed. How oft tonight have my old feet stumbled at graves? Who's there? Here's one, a friend, and one that knows you well. Bliss be upon you. Tell me, good friend, what torch is yon that vainly lends his light to grubs and eyeless skulls? As I discern, it burneth in the capel's monument. It doth so, sir, holy sir, and there's my master, one that you love. Who is it? Romeo. Oh, how long hath he been there? Full half an hour. Go with me to the vault. I dare not, sir. My master knows not, but I am gone hence, and fearfully did menace me with death if I stay to look on his attents. Stay then. I'll go alone. A fear comes upon me. Oh, much I fear some ill and thrifty thing. As I did sleep under this yew tree here, I dreamt my master and another fought, and that my master slew him. Romeo! Alack, alack, what blood is this which stains the stony entrance of the sepulchre? What means these masterless and gory wounds? These scory swords to lie discolored by this palace of peace? Romeo! Oh, pale. Wills. What? Paris too? And steeped in blood? Ah, what an unkind hour is guilty of this lamentable chance. The lady stirs. Oh, comfortable friar, where is my lord? I do remember well where I should be, and there I am, but where is my Romeo? I hear some noise, lady, come from that nest of death, contagion, and unnatural sleep, and a greater power than we can contradict hath thwarted our intents. Come away. Thy husband in thy bosom there lies dead. In Paris too. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Stay not to question, for the watch is coming. Come, go, good Juliet, I dare no longer stay. Go, get thee hence,
for I will not away. What's here? A cup, closed in my true love's hand? Poison, I see, hath been his timeless end. Oh, churl, drunk all, and left no friendly drop to help me after? I will kiss thy lips, and haply some poison yet doth hang on them to make me die with a restorative. Oh, thy lips are warm.
So she just so happens to wake up right in time to notice that Romeo is dead. Like, they just missed each other by minutes. When the friar comes rolling up, he sees a lit torch in the distance, and he's like, oh no, that's not good. Who's here? Romeo. By the time he gets in there, he sees Paris is dead on the ground, bleeding, and Romeo is laying dead next to her. Juliet notices poison, and she won't leave. Friar Lawrence is afraid. He's afraid. We must go. We must away. They're coming. We have to get out of here really quick. But Juliet does not want to go. She won't leave Romeo here. So he cannot convince her. The friar says, a greater power than we can contradict hath thwarted our intents. Come away. On line 154, even the friar is mentioning that fate has kind of stepped in here, and there's nothing that we can do to counteract this. It was something bigger than us has played a role here, right? Now, maybe because he's a friar, he's referencing God, that God has played a role in this. But again, it's the idea that it's out of their control, that there was nothing that they could have done. This is a great plan, but unfortunately, things have gotten in the way to kind of counteract it. And now they must go. He mentions here that I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Stay not to question. So the friar kind of offers her an out. I want you to remember, in this time period, where would Juliet go? She's faked her own death to be with Romeo. And instead, like, she can't go back to her normal life. He's going to dispose of her in a nunnery, to make a nun of her. How is that like a better option for her? That isn't the life that he promised that she was going to have. That was never like one of the alternatives of drinking this sleeping potion. And so she doesn't want to leave. She wants to stay. And she tries to kiss him, but there's no poison left. And unfortunately, she's going to have to just deal with the fact that he drunk all of it and he's gone. So outside the tomb, we hear a chief watchman, so somebody tied to the prince in the background here, is noticing, who's been kind of summoned by the page, that there was issues coming on here. They have now got to the tomb. This is what the friar was afraid of. Lead, boy, which way? Yeah, noise. Then I'll be brief. Oh, happy dagger. She takes Romeo's dagger that he's had on his belt. This is thy sheath. There, rust, and let me die. Oh. She falls. Oh. There's a lot of death happening right here. Body count is just boom, boom, boom. Enter Paris's boy and the watchman. This is the place, there, where the torch doth burn. Oh, this ground is bloody. Search about the churchyard. Go, some of you, whoever find, attach. Pitiful sight. Here lies the county slain. And Juliet bleeding, warm and newly dead? Who here hath lain this 2 days buried? Go, tell the prince. Run to the Capulets. Raise up the Montagues. Some others search. We see the ground whereon these woes do lie, but the true ground of all these piteous woes we cannot without circumstance descry. Oh, here's Romeo's man. We found him in the churchyard. Hold him in safety till the prince come hither. Here is a friar that trembles, sighs, and weeps. We took this mattock and this spade from him. He was coming from his churchyard side. A great suspicion. Stay the friar too. What misadventure is so early up that calls our person from our morning rest? Now, Obviously, a couple of minutes would have passed because now here come the Capulets are being kind of brought in to witness here. Lord Capulet, Lady Capulet make an entrance here.
What should it be that is so shrieked abroad? Oh, the people in the street, cried Romeo, some Juliet and some Paris, and all run with open outcry toward our monument. What fear is this which startles in your ears? The sovereign, here lies the County Paris slain, in Romeo dead, in Juliet dead before, warm and new killed. Search, seek, and know how this foul murder comes. Here is the friar, slaughtered Romeo's man, with instruments upon them fit to open these dead men's tombs. Oh, heavens! Oh, wife, look how our daughter bleeds. This dagger hath mistaken, for lo, his house is empty in the back of Montague, and it is missheathed in my daughter's bosom. Oh me, the sight of death is as a bell that warns my old age to a sepulchre.
Here come the Montague family. Come, Montague, for thou art early up to see thy son and heir more early down.
Alas, my liege, my wife is dead tonight. Grief of my son's exile hath stopped her breath. What further woe conspires against my age?
And we found out a lot right there. Montague comes walking in, and it turns out Lady Montague, she died of grief. Grief-stricken from the loss of Romeo's banishment. She dies. So he comes up alone here. He's lost his wife to this situation. Let's add another body on the count. Holy cow. It's rapidly multiplying. Look, and thou shalt see.
Oh, thou untaught, what manners is in this, to press before thy father to a grave?
Seal up the mouth of outrage for a while, till we can clear these ambiguities, and know their spring, their head, their true descent. And then will I be general of your woes, and lead you even to death. Meantime, forbear and let mischance be slave to patience. Bring forth the parties of suspicion. I am the greatest, able to do the least. Yet most suspected, as the time and place doth make against me in this direful murder. And here I stand, both to impeach and purge myself, condemned and myself excused. And say at once what thou dost know in this. I will be brief, for my short date of breath is not so long as it is a tedious tale. Romeo, there dead, was husband to that Juliet, and she, there dead, that's Romeo's faithful wife. I married them. And their stolen marriage day was Tybalt's doomsday, whose untimely death banished the new-made bridegroom from this city, for whom, and not for Tybalt, Juliet pined. You, to remove that siege of grief from her, betrothed and would have married her perforce to County Paris. Then comes she to me, and with wild looks bid me to devise some mean to rid her from this second marriage, or in my cell there she would kill herself. Then I gave her, so tutored by my art, a sleeping potion, which so took effect as I intended, for it wrought on her the form of death. Meantime, I writ to Romeo that he should hither come as this dire night, to help to take her from her borrowed grave, being the time the potion's force should cease. But he, which bore my letter, Friar John, was stayed by accident, and yesternight returned my letter back. Then, all alone, at the prefixed hour of her waking, came I to take her from her kindred's vault, meaning to keep her closely at my cell till I conveniently could send to Romeo. But when I came, some minute ere the time of her awakening, here untimely lay the noble Paris, and true Romeo dead. She wakes, and I entreated her to come forth and bear this work of heaven with patience. But then a noise did scare me from the tomb, and she too desperate would not go with me.
but, as it seems, did violence on herself. All this I know, and to the marriage her nurse is privy. And if aught in this miscarried by my fault, let my old life be sacrificed some hour before his time unto the rigor of severest law. So the friar comes clean here. He tells everything. Even drops dime on the nurse. The nurse has even been kind of brought in here, that we both had a hand in making sure that these two would be married. But they loved each other. And that's why Juliet was so upset. For this is what she pined for. It was not for Tybalt, as mentioned on line 236. So he straightens out a lot of things. He clears a lot up as to why is he there? Why is Juliet newly dead? He explains the fact that he gave her a potion because otherwise she would have killed herself in his cell. So he really kind of divulges all of the secrets here and says ultimately at the end, after he's done so, for the role that he's played, on line 265, the marriage the nurse is privy, and if aught in this miscarried by my fault, let my old life be sacrificed. So he says, because of what I've done, if you need to kill me, then do so. We still have known thee for a holy man. That sounds like he's going to give leniency to Friar. Where's Romeo's man? What can he say to this? I brought my master news of Juliet's death, and then in post he came from Mantua, to this same place, to this same monument. This letter he early bid me give his father, and threatened me with death going into the vault if I departed not and left him there. Give me thy letter. I will look on it. Where is County's page that raised the watch? Sirrah, what made your master in this place? He came with flowers to strew his lady's grave, and bid me stand aloof, and so I did. Anon comes one with light to ope the tomb, and by my master drew on him, and then I ran away to call the watch. This letter doth make good the friar's words. Their course of love, the tidings of her death, and here he writes that he did buy a poison of a poor apothecary, and with therewithal came to this vault to die and lie with Juliet. Where be these enemies? Capulet, Montague, see what a scourge is laid upon your hate, that heaven finds means to kill your joys with love. And I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. All are punished. So, in this last part here from the prince, he's reading over the letter from Romeo, and he realizes it's true. They loved each other, and that was his wife. Who would have thought? And in his final moments of talking to Lord Capulet, Lord Montague, he says, look what's happened from your hate. Look at their love. The two of them found a way to come together regardless, no matter how you felt. So that was something that he wants to kind of make sure that they see. Also, make note of the fact that he's lost some of his own kinsmen. He's lost family because of their rivalry. That their hatred for each other has even spilled into his family. And he even blames himself here, right? And I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. He's like, on line 294, for me showing leniency to you, I've allowed this to happen. So even he's finding some fault in this, that he's had to pay with his own family, which is kind of a damning thing to say as well. So here on stage, you have Lord Capulet and Lord Montague front and center, looking at their dead children. Oh, brother Montague, give me thy hand. This is my daughter's jointure, for no more can I demand. But I can give thee more, for I will raise her statue in pure gold, that whiles Verona by that name is known, there shall no figure at such a rate be set as that of true and faithful Juliet. As rich shall Romeo's by his ladies lie, pour sacrifices for our enmity.
A glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for sorrow will not show his head. Go hence, to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned, and some punished. For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. And that is the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. So at the end, it's the death of the children that brings the old men together. And for all accounts, it appears that it is enough to end their feud, that the fighting is now over. And to look at it as a happy ending is not really quite true in that sense, right? That, they're not fighting anymore. Awesome. That's great. When you think how far it's come from Act 1 of the play, when there was the brawl in the streets and the prince first comes out and makes his declaration to the families, a lot's happened since then. And it's a heavy toll of life that takes this to finally come to a halt, right? The feud is only over because of the amount of death, and especially seeing their young children, the heir, the Montague heir being dead. It's heavy. It's a big loss. So that is the end of the play. And we see, even though we knew that Romeo and Juliet were star-crossed lovers, fated to die, essentially, from the prologue of this play, we were still pulling for it to work out. We were still pulling for this plan to work. And maybe it could have. Maybe it could have had some things gone differently. But the idea that fate wasn't going to allow for them to be together, and that perhaps their families never would have accepted the other, that the Capulets would never have accepted the Montagues and vice versa. Maybe it actually takes the death of Romeo and Juliet for that to happen. I hope you've enjoyed your first taste of Shakespeare. There is so much more and so many great works that he's created. I hope I helped make it a little easier for you to understand. I hope you've gotten quite a bit out of it. And I look forward to talking with you a little bit more about it later. You guys have a great day. Take care.